Christine Meyer is a life coach and author of Keep It Simple, Smartypants, Stop Overthinking, Start Aligning, Live Happy. Sounds interesting, isn't it? Since 2002, it's been her mission to empower, educate, and uplift. She has coached unmistakable mavericks in the world to follow their own compass, to design and live the life they want. Through the understanding and mastery of the power of their thoughts and alignment with who they truly are. She's a frequent podcast guest, founding member, and regular contributor to the Forbes Coaches Council, which is a prominent body and highly recognized across the world, wherein many coaches across the globe get empaneled. And she's also excited to share the fundamental foundations offered to her private clients and in her first of many books. Let's unleash the power of mindset and how we should fight for our dreams. This is the Guiding Voice podcast series, the Guiding Voice for a Better Future. Friends, I'm your host Naveen Samala, just a fellow IT professional but a passionate learner on a mission to make a difference in the careers and lives of millions across the globe. Through the Guiding Voice, we drive conversations that matter, conversations that add value to your life and to your career. Seasoned leaders and celebrated coaches across the globe share their knowledge and wisdom on our platform so that our audience will acquire more knowledge per every minute by tuning into the Guiding Voice podcast than any other podcast in this space. Thank you so much for joining me. And I'm super excited to have Christine Meyer, part of today's conversation. And Christine, hearty welcome to the Guiding Voice. And I'm super thrilled to have you as a guest on my show today.
Thank you for having me, Naveen. It's really fun to be here and I'm eager for this conversation. And I love what you're up to here with this podcast.
Thank you. And without further ado, let's get into the conversation, Christine. I am really curious about understanding your career journey. Probably you can share some milestones in terms of what kind of roles you took before getting into this coaching journey.
Well, the many roles that I played were very entrepreneurial, actually. I got into real estate when I was 18. And I was one of the, if not the youngest person who got into real estate at the time in that area. So I went on that journey, and I guess I was very independent and freedom seeking always. And so from there, I was a personal trainer and I took many paths. I was in banking, I was in insurance, and I always had a desire to be helpful, a desire to be of value, a desire to uplift, and was very interested in human behavior and thoughts and how we create and design, have control, have authorship, I suppose, of designing the lives that we wanted. And so I somewhat blundered. I owned a fencing company, not fencing as in the sport, but fencing as in properties. So that was a brick and mortar business. So I've done many things. And when life coaching came upon me, if you will, it feels like it sort of took me over. I bumped into it, discovered life coaching, got trained for it, and I haven't looked back since. I've been doing this for 20 plus years now.
Christine, I'm super impressed by the kind of turns that have happened in your career. It started with real estate, banking, insurance. And one thing that really amused me is about your passion to uplift people by letting them understand their own strengths and all. So let's talk more about how to find somebody's strengths and how to also identify their weaknesses in a while. But before that, I'm also keen on understanding the top 3 traits or top 3 things that have contributed to your professional success so far.
Well, I think from my perspective now, certainly it was coming to understand focus, coming to understand, how powerful my thoughts are, and becoming self-aware about how I was feeling about those things. So understanding those 2 things were extremely important in my trajectory, and believing in myself. believing in myself, believing in my vision, believing in my desires more than my perceived limitations. We all have perceived limitations, and as we should. I don't think that anyone really exists on this planet without having some form of limitation when they set a goal or when they have a desire, and that's okay. And so I think understanding those things has been my key to success and my key to enjoying my journey more, rather than feeling like I wasn't where I need or should be or thought I needed or should be.
That's great. So understand the focus on, and also be vigilant on the thoughts, believing in self. Right. I think these are very powerful thoughts. And let's move on to my next question. You almost were an entrepreneur right from your career beginning, right? So it requires a lot of passion, commitment, and many other things to be an entrepreneur. But my focus is in terms of what are some toughest lessons that you have learned in this journey, right? Because we expect something before venturing into a particular initiative, but after getting there, we come across certain roadblocks and we navigate them successfully. And if we look back or in the hindsight, they look okay. We have overcome all those things, and right now I feel proud about what I am today.
Yeah. Well, toughest lessons learned in my entrepreneurial journey. I sort of hear that question slightly differently. And so when I think of what have I done when I've bumped into things that felt tough, it's been to really understand that no matter what is happening, it's always to my benefit, even though I might not be able to see how that is yet to be to my benefit. So toughest lessons learned perhaps could be brought into here in terms of not getting caught up too much in the what is, in the current reality, and let that find a way to manage it, find a way to balance it, find a way to keep soothing yourself in that area as you don't give up on your dream. Because a moment or longer moments of what feels like it's not really going your way can only inform you. So if you take that information, if you take from it and say, what are the benefits that I'm experiencing here, or what could be benefits from this experience, or what is this showing me? What is this informing me about me? Who do I want to be as I navigate these rougher waters? So I think those are how I've gotten myself through those tougher moments. And hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It makes sense. And let's move on and talk about core of today's conversation. So mindset, right? It's all in the mindset, and people talk a lot about skill set versus mindset. But how many people are really clear on what mindset is, right? So I would like to hear from you what mindset is in your opinion.
I love this question because I feel like mostly people believe that mindset is overcoming something. So I'm just going to make up my mind, meaning I'm just going to say some affirmations to myself and I'm just going to overcome it. I'm just going to overcome it. Versus I'm going to focus on what feels better, versus I'm going to focus on what I want and how that feels, versus focus to me is not just about your mind and overcoming your negative thoughts and sounding positive. It's focus and intention and desire combined, and thinking about what you want and paying attention to how you feel. Again, it's not about overcoming the negative thoughts. It's thinking the thoughts that feel better. It's not standalone with only your thoughts. You must understand, in my opinion, you must understand that your thoughts have an emotion. When you're thinking throughout the day, you're having feeling responses throughout your day about those thoughts. And let that emotion guide you, because those thoughts and that emotion are letting you know what you're in the process of making a future reservation for. And so some of those, again, back to your other question about the toughest lessons, I learned that struggle is not something I want to be committed to. And overcoming things is not something I want to be committed to. Instead, designing my path, being the author of my path in terms of focusing my thoughts and paying attention to how those feel, to me is that mindset combined, not just about overcoming.
And now let's talk about the importance of mindset. And while we discuss that, maybe you can shed some light around, do we have something like good mindset and bad mindset?
I don't believe that there's a good mindset and a bad mindset, air quotes here. I believe that there are things that you can focus on, things that you can think about that feel better, and things that you can focus on and think about that feel worse. And there's value in both. And so when you are thinking about something that you fear, something that you don't want, and you're having that emotion in you that feels like fear, there's nothing wrong with that per se. When you're feeling anxious about something, there's nothing wrong with that. But that emotion that you're having with what you're thinking about is helpful to you. And just because you're focusing in one place now doesn't mean that, and if it feels bad, it doesn't mean that something bad is going to happen. So what I want your listeners to understand in this conversation is that your thoughts create and your emotions let you know which direction you're creating from. And so there's really no negative or bad mindset or good mindset. There's one that feels better and there's one that feels worse. There's one that's more aligned with what you want and there's one that's more standing in the way of what you want, meaning contradicting. I want this, but. So that mindset creates tension within you and you can feel it. I want this, but, and then there's a long list of excuses or limitations that we have. And again, that's not meant to come across as a judgment. It's simply we have our current beliefs that bump into our current desires.
Oh, that's great. Now let's move on to my next question, and which I'm really curious. If I were to talk about my strengths, right, I have a huge list which I can talk, and that is applicable to everybody, because people tend to focus on positive aspects and which they are good at. When it comes to weaknesses, we rely on our coaches, we rely on our leaders, we rely on our managers, and until and unless they come and tell us, hey, you may have to work on this aspect, right, it comes as a surprise. So before I, as a person, approach a coach or approach a leader, can I find my own weaknesses and development needs?
Yeah, you're doing it every day, all day long. I'm going to sound repetitive here, but every time you're bumping into something and feeling some negative emotion, you are bumping into your perceived weaknesses. So I feel slightly contrary to what you said. I feel people focus more on their weaknesses and their faults, what their perceived faults, their perceived inefficiencies, their perceived weaknesses than they do actually on their strength. So given the example that you're presenting, I go to work and my manager or my CEO or whoever points out my weaknesses. It's a bigger conversation than that, in my opinion. But if that person is pointing some of those things out, I would think to myself, I would self-reflect and think, have I thought about this? Have I had these thoughts about myself already? Have I been thinking and feeling in ways that actually resonates with what that person said to me? And I will, for the most part, say that yes, you have, even if you've been oblivious to it. And so becoming aware of your weaknesses is not something that I focus on when I coach people. I focus more on what are your strengths and becoming ready for what you want. Because if we focus on your weaknesses, it's logical to think that if I focus on my weakness, then I will focus on the improvement of it. And then that's how I would suggest you use your weaknesses, is as information, and decide if it truly is a weakness, because most weaknesses are perceived and it's not really who you are. And therefore, how would I like to really be or feel? And how would I like that to translate into my work? So I would take a weakness and say, okay, but what are the positive aspects of that weakness then? Because it's truly not a weakness if you can flip it around.
Yeah, quite insightful, Christine. And let's move on to the next one. How can somebody improve themselves?
How can somebody improve themselves?
Yeah.
Well, there are plenty of ways by truly telling a different story about yourself. Pay attention to the stories that you're telling. I'm not good at this. I want this and I've never had it. I am reaching for higher pay or better work or better employees, but I haven't had them. And so when I'm thinking those thoughts about myself, or I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, so on, if you focus on that, you're not going to improve yourself, if you will. So you must start recognizing that you're telling stories. We all tell stories. We all have beliefs about ourselves. We all have preconceived notions and expectations that we bump into about ourselves and what we are capable of. And so start paying attention to what your monologue is, and start paying attention to what you're telling other people about yourself, and start telling the story, start leaning your perspectives. Well, what if it could be different? What if I am good enough? What if I am capable enough? What if it could be achieved? What if, and start asking those what if, more positive what if questions than negative what if questions. And how else to improve yourself certainly is, as I've been weaving it into this conversation all along, is pay attention to how you feel, care about feeling good, and care about changing your perspective so that it feels better about the things that matter to you. Because the things that matter to you, if you bring a consistent negative perspective to it, you're splitting yourself apart. You're creating some tension within yourself that doesn't need to be there. So again, to answer your question, how do I improve myself? Really, truly caring about how you feel and doing whatever it takes to find better feeling perspectives, or focus on those things that feel better to you. And you will elevate. You will elevate.
Great advice, Christine, and I'm thoroughly enjoying this conversation. I would like to move to my next question. How do we fight for our dreams?
I would never say fight for your dreams. Because fighting implies that I've got to push, and I've got to struggle, and I've got to earn it, and I've got to kind of prove it to other people that I'm deserving of my dreams. And with that, for me anyway, when I hear that question, it's like it's well accepted human perspective of dreams. And what I want you to understand really is that your dreams, your desires, let's put it into that context, your desires are valid. Your desires are coming from you as you experience your life, as you live your life, and you experience some of what you don't want, and therefore you clarify what you do want. And that's all part of the process of being here as a human creator of your life, or author of your story. And so how do we achieve our dreams? How do we move toward our dreams? I will answer that question. First, belief. It takes belief, but belief to people, or hope to people, is sort of, that's a pie in the sky thing. So don't contradict your desires with what you say and what you think. Contradict them less. Find more ways to speak in the direction of what you want versus in the direction of what you've had to overcome, where you came from. Because speaking about all of that just regurgitates it all and brings it with you. It's like you just put it in a backpack and stapled it to your back, and now you're going to carry it forth. And so how do you achieve your dreams? It truly is, again, back to what I said earlier, focus. But that doesn't mean I'm going to think about my dream. I'm going to think about my dream. That doesn't mean that. I mean, a soft expectation. Massage yourself into a soft expectation that you can have what you want. You might not know the path. You might not know the way. You might not know all of the details of how it's going to come out, but imagine it and feel it, not to make it happen, but imagine your dreams and desires for the pleasure of the idea and thinking of it versus trying to force it to happen.
Excellent. I love that advice. And this has been fabulous conversation, but let's lighten up the mood of our audience.
I thought all of this was light.
It is indeed, but we would like to get to know other side of Christine. Okay, so let me find the rapid fire questions, and all you have to do is answer them crisply, like one word or maximum one phrase kind of thing.
Gotcha.
Let me fire the first bullet. Can you share with
I'm
our
not much
audience?
of a one-word answer person, am I? As you've seen here.
Let's try.
I can, though. I
Yeah,
can.
absolutely. That's the spirit. So, what was your childhood fantasy, Christine?
To ride a magic carpet.
Wow. What is the best piece of advice that you received so far?
Get over it.
And can you describe yourself in one word?
Oh, intentional and desiring fun. 2 words.
Excellent. And which animal would you want to be reborn as?
Either a racehorse or my dog.
Interesting. And let me find the last one. What is one electronic gadget that you like to see or invent yourself?
Oh, please, one that would turn off all of the electronic gadgets.
Yeah, indeed. We have developed them for some purpose, but they have taken over our life.
There's the potential for them to do that, yeah.
Indeed. All right, that was quick rapid fire, and you did it. You nailed it. Wonderful, Christine. And before I let you go, let's flip back to the mainstream. And one final question for today's conversation. What will be your single piece of advice to those aspiring to begin their careers or lives? You can pick either of them.
Well, I think understand that your path to success, really the success that you want, is one that only you can truly understand. And you to be ready for that next level that you want is really important to do before you get there. So how do you do that before you get there? You, again, bringing in what I already said, is really imagining it, playing with the idea, enjoying the idea, paying attention to how you feel about the desire that you have, and doing something about changing how you feel, doing something about changing your perspective about it, doing something to inspire you to believe in yourself and in your dreams, versus, and in a practical way, paying attention to how you're talking about it, listening to yourself as you share whatever it is about your desire or your dream. Pay attention to what you're saying. What are you hearing yourself say? All of the impossibilities, all of the struggle, all of the hard work. And we're not saying that there isn't hard work or attention required on scaling, on having more of what you want. It's simply pay attention to what stories are you telling. And I often suggest or ask my clients they're in, most of them are entrepreneurs, well established, very successful. And I'll say to them, if you were to write a letter to your business right now, what would it say in it? You're a pain in the butt. I have employees that don't, perform, or whatever it is that I want them to. They don't show up, or and I worry about you, and I'm concerned about you. Or, okay, so let's figure that out. What letter? What would you be saying in that letter to your business? And so take that letter, let it sink in. You recognize what it is that your monologue is here about this. And now let's take that letter and flip it. Write a love letter to your business. Write a love letter to your business. Find the things that have helped you evolve, helped you understand yourself more, have inspired you to want something else, even if it came from having an experience that you didn't want in your business. What did it inspire you to want? And so start writing that story. Write it out on paper, because it's fascinating to me and to my clients whenever we do this game, and think of it as a game. Don't beat yourself up. Don't knock yourself down. It's like, you are where you are, but just recognize where you are. Like if you were on the road and you wanted to go from point A to point B, you'd have to tell your GPS where you are to go to point B so that it can navigate you. So just understanding where you are and not beating yourself up for it. And then making a choice about, all right, write a love letter to my business, and practice that on the daily. Practice talking to your business in that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love the message. In fact, it is very intriguing, and I request audience who are running their own businesses, probably you have to try writing a letter and a love letter to your business. Yep, such a profound advice. And thank you so much, Christine. I really enjoyed the conversation. Thanks for your time. And thanks for all the value addition that you have provided to our show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. This was a lot of fun. Lots of great questions.
All right. So, pleasure to host you, Christine. And folks, before we move into the trivia section, here is a request to you. In case if you haven't subscribed to us, please subscribe from the app where you have tuned in from. Also, if you have loved the conversation and enjoyed the episode, request you to share with at least 3 of your friends or colleagues who can benefit from the guiding voice. Now, let's hop into the trivia segment of today's episode. So today we had a wonderful discussion about mindset, understanding our strengths, understanding our development needs, and how do we chase our dreams rather than fighting our dreams, right? So I would like to present a trivia about brain, human brain. You know, most people don't use 10% of our brain capacity. I'm sure you might have heard about this statement in the past, but do you know if it is real or a myth? This is a rumor, and researchers have found that it is a myth. We use most capacity of our brains even when we are sleeping. And the second aspect of the human brain is the brain feels no pain. Although pain is processed through the brain, the organ itself feels no pain. And you might think that brain freeze is a pain experienced by the brain, but that pain emanates from the roof of our mouth. Thankfully, a brain freeze doesn't cause our brain cells to freeze, as that would cause them to rupture. And last one, most important and one of my favorites is introvert and extrovert brains, right? They do have physical differences, and MRI results have shown measurable differences between the brains of introverts and extroverts. In the brain of an extrovert, the dopamine reward network is more active, whereas in the introvert's brain, more gray matter is present. Interesting, isn't it? Likewise, if you are aware of any interesting thoughts about brain and also any other perspectives related to mindset, comment in case if you are watching it on YouTube, or else you can comment on the social media post from where you found the episode. And in addition to that, if you have any topic recommendations or speaker suggestions, please feel free to reach out to me through social media by searching for Naveen Samala, or email me at theguidingvoiceforyou@gmail.com. That's all for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. And folks, I'm your host Naveen Samala. Just a fellow IT professional, but a passionate learner on a mission to make a difference in the careers and lives of millions across the globe. Until next time, bye-bye. Signing off for today. See you all in the next day.